Hey, good morning, all. Welcome.
Morning, everybody. Welcome to our Data and AI webinar. I think we're going to give it a couple minutes to let everybody filter in before we kick it off. So thank you for your patience. Hey, everybody. For those who just joined us a couple seconds ago, we're going to give it another 2 minutes just to let everybody get here, and then we'll go ahead and kick this whole thing off. Thank you. All right, so it looks like we got most people here. Good morning, everybody. It's fantastic just to see so many of you guys taking the time to meet with us today. I know there's a couple people who still haven't showed up, but just to be respectful of everybody's time, we're going to go ahead and get started. I do want to take a second to introduce myself and my team. So my name is Connor Woods, and I am the data platform team lead at IBM that supports North Texas and Louisiana. And with me, I brought our data intelligence technical lead, Justin Marino, our agentic AI technical lead, Menelik Abijay, and our data security technical lead, Matthew Schuler, as well as our go-to data and AI implementation partner, Data Ninjas. And today we're just going to be exploring the data and AI lifecycle. So all of you can leave here with some actionable insights that can help you just drive successful and trustworthy and innovative AI initiatives within all of your respective organizations. Now, before I dive into everything, can I just do a quick mic check? Is everybody seeing my screen and hearing me okay? Menelik, am I coming through all right?
Yep, I hear you clearly.
Perfect. All right, guys, so just to kind of set the agenda, the first thing we're going to dive into is just how to get your data ready for generative AI and just building that trust in your data and your generative AI. This is foundational, and Justin is going to discuss just how to prepare your data assets, ensure their quality, and just really establish that trustworthiness needed to fuel effective and reliable AI applications. And next, we're going to explore what a successful and trustworthy AI deployment looks like. We're going to examine the characteristics and the features of deployments that not only deliver business value, but uphold those ethical standards and just maintain user confidence. Then we're going to kind of look ahead into the future of what agentic AI is and how we believe this is going to be the future of operations for all companies. And finally, we're going to tackle this crucial topic of just how to govern and secure your AI for any organization today. Now, before we kick everything off officially, I know everybody is curious about next steps in getting your free driver. So stick around until the end of this presentation for the survey, which you will be filling out within this Zoom meeting. And once that's completed, you're going to get an email with the address and the time of your driver fitting, which is going to take place on the afternoon of the 28th. So with that being said, Justin, I'm going to pass it over to you to kick us off.
Yeah, Just to add a real quick, Connor, in case you don't see the survey in the Zoom meeting itself, you will definitely get an email. This is Mangesh. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And thank you, Connor, for passing that off. Appreciate it. So, hey everyone, just another welcome. I am the technical specialist for our data platform, and just kind of a quick overview. I cover our databases and then what we like to call data fabric. And what I want to talk to you guys today about is preparing our data and what that life cycle looks like internally with our systems to prepare that data for AI. And right now, we've identified that less than 1% of data is actually being used by any generative AI use case. So that essentially means that 99% of that data is just sitting there. It's untapped and the opportunity is there, but we aren't leveraging it. So the opportunity isn't about creating more data. It's about unlocking the value that we already have there. So the reality is that most AI projects will fail without AI-ready data, and we'll go into what that means and exactly how we can have AI-ready data. Less than 1% of enterprise data is actually being used by generative AI, and the vast majority of that data is unstructured and messy. And I'm sure we all here have dealt with data in some capacity that has been unstructured and is hard to kind of identify and streamline through processes to be able to use that data. And that's our challenge. And that's exactly what we're going to speak about today, how we can unlock and prepare our enterprise data so it can truly feel and be prepared for AI. So here's an example of why traditional RAG use cases will fail. I just mentioned that 60% of projects will fail without kind of working through our data and cleaning it, preparing it for AI use cases. And they fail to understand our context and relationships across documents, as we can see in the diagram above. Linking invoices, purchase orders, and contracts, this unstructured data is just hard to standardize and keep track of. Sensitive information isn't governed consistently, and that leads to compliance and a bunch of access issues. And I'm sure we've kind of come across that at some point. And when we do ingest and work through our retrieval processes, they're often manual and iterative. So that slows down time to value, and it just kind of slows their overall process. And without an AI-ready foundation, this kind of use case will fail, and it won't deliver our trustworthy or even enterprise-grade results. So moving forward, and just kind of since we've identified what that looks like and what a failed use case looks like, these are some of the core use cases besides that that we can see driving business value with our AI implementations. So without going into each use case here, I just want to identify some at a super high level, and they usually fall into three buckets. The first bucket being that driving smarter decisions in real time. So anything between analytics, AI implementations, transactions, and everything under that umbrella. Our next bucket will be managing data as a trusted asset, whether that falls into governance, compliance, data as a product to share internally, or anything there. And lastly, modernizing for scale and access, meaning cloud adoption and just bridging overall skill gaps. And every conversation I typically have with clients these days, it usually does start from an idea of we don't want to be left behind in the AI space, and how can we catch up? And this is where we do start so we can ensure a smooth process as we go through. And I'll show you later on in this presentation a diagram of what that process will look like. So on the unreliable data slide, in what I'm showcasing here, internally, most organizations consider their data unreliable. The reality is that 73% are unhappy with quality, 80% don't trust it, and 82% just say poor data blocks their integration projects overall. And if that foundation is shaky, everything built on top of it is just compromised. So how do we solve this? And it starts with the right data architecture, one that's open, it can be hybrid, or just designed overall to give you flexibility, for whatever your business may call for. So we can move to the next slide. And that's where we'll speak to our data and generative AI strategy. So our strategy is open by design. It's flexible, it's open, and there's no specific vendor lock-in. We are hybrid or multi-cloud. So like I mentioned, whatever internally you guys do need to use, we can work with you. We run workloads anywhere. And like I mentioned, public cloud, on-prem, across separate providers. Really, the journey's up to you, and we work with you every step of the way. We have optimal price performance, and we use the right engine for whatever job you need. And we do kind of emphasize and heavily emphasize our data security and governance. And overall, just to make our data AI ready. So we'll continue going and we'll start looking at our architecture. So I promise this slide is very noisy, but I can describe it to where we kind of understand overall the story of what it looks like to prepare our data for those AI use cases. So let's start all the way on the far left. We have data everywhere, but it may be siloed, and that's our initial problem, right? So our data today, it lives everywhere. It can live within mainframes, transactional systems, real-time events, or just or fraud detection, batch systems, data warehouses, lakes, bunch of different locations where our data can exist, and that becomes overwhelming. And each of these produces value, but in isolation, it's hard to get the full picture. And like I mentioned, we end up with silos, delays, and inconsistent quality. So now we move over to the right a bit. We work to bring this data together. And that's where our IBM Data Fabric does come in. We first connect everything, whether it's real-time data from Kafka, bulk batch data from your data lakes, or just mainframe and legacy data. We work to integrate all of it seamlessly, whether that be streaming or batch, structured or unstructured. That is our next step in our Data Fabric solution. From there, we move on to organizing that chaos. And that's the sort of middle of the screen here where we do see those three buckets, bronze, silver, and gold. And I'll describe what that means. So once the data comes in, we put it into our modern lakehouse architecture. And you can think of it as that three-step refinery with bronze, silver, and gold. So starting within bronze, it's just our raw data ingestion. Everything's been integrated. All our data is now in one place, and we are just ingesting it to begin working through that data. Once it moves over to the silver silo, we will start cleaning, filtering, and enriching that data, whether that be labeling unstructured data or anything under that use case. We are now enriching it and preparing it for use. Essentially, at this point, we can begin using that data. It is, for lack of better terms, clean and prepared. But we do want to move over to that last bucket, which is that gold, high quality, and business ready data. So we aren't just working through user level data. This is enterprise level work that we want to do. And we have to make sure that it is prepared and governed to be used in that use case. So now we move over to the right side, and we're going to the far right now. And from there, we let you choose the right engine for the job now that the data is cleaned and now that the data is enterprise ready. We need advanced queries. We can use Spark, Presto. We need warehouse speed, DB2, Netezza, anything under that umbrella. And our semantic lakehouse layer powers that. And if you've invested in third-party engines, it's no problem. We support those as well. It's flexible. And like I mentioned a little earlier, we aren't locked into any type of system, any type of architecture. And finally, our consumer value, which we'll see all the way on the far right there, we deliver value to everyone. And the best part, the data fabric doesn't just serve your data scientist, it fuels every team you may need. So your business users, your AI initiatives, your data science and engineering teams, everyone has capability to work with clean data, to work with enterprise level ready data. And now everyone can just streamline their work and not worry if anything is kind of just messed up from any type of data silos that we may have worked with previously. So all of this is wrapped into IBM's governance and observability and security layers, and governance to enforce compliance and lineage. So we have that observability now to catch anomalies before they become issues, and we can go straight to our projects and find success. So instead of scattered data silos and duplicated efforts, our data fabric solution becomes the connective tissue, and we can pull everything together by cleaning it, securing it, and making it instantly usable for both your business users and your internal AI strategy. And it's how you go from data everywhere, value nowhere, to data everywhere and value everywhere. And finally, just a quick architecture that I wanted to run to, very similar to the previous side, just more so on the driving business value that we kind of mentioned at the end there. This is where everything comes together. And once we have this full solution and full architecture working, this is our modern data platform that we envision to connect your assets, integrate them in real time, and make them usable across any business use case. We have our data assets, integration, our medallion architecture that we like to call it, and that's our bronze, silver, and kind of gold silo work through. Our data observability, data intelligence, consumer ready, and our security layer. That ties everything up together and kind of makes us have a full full view on our data cleanliness and preparation for AI. And I'll go and pass it to my colleague now, Menelik, and he can show you just exactly what we can use with some type of clean data. An example of a use case that we've identified as pretty valuable. Thank you all.
You, Justin. Actually passing it back to me before we go over to
Oh,
Menelik.
for sure. Over to Connor.
No, I really appreciate it, man. So thank you again. And now that we've standardized, that we've organized, and we've really built trust in our data, we can really start to finally capitalize on the benefits of generative and agentic AI and just have the confidence needed to use this technology, knowing that the answers and the insights that AI is providing us can actually be trusted. And to expand on this point, this slide explains IBM's point of view on the non-negotiable principles that every business's AI platform needs to uphold. And that first core principle is being open. So whatever Gen AI platform your company decides to go with, it needs to be open, or it's going to restrict what's available to your users and lock you into one vendor. And the reason I say this is because we do not believe in a one model fits all use cases mentality. We understand certain models are better than other models for certain use cases. I kind of like to think of it as a car. If you want to impress someone, if you have a nice date, you might bring out the Ferrari, but if you're going to go mudding in the mountains, you're going to bring out that truck. And this is the same thing for models. And so I'm sure most of you know this as well, but having an open source platform, it really gives your company very easy access to innovation as well as foundation models. So if your generative AI platform is fundamentally open, it will in turn give your company and all of your users access to data in any format across any cloud or on-premise architecture. Now, the second core principle that we believe your Gen AI platform needs to be built on is trust. And I'm sure you guys already know this too, but there are very many well-known issues with generative AI platforms like ChatGPT or applications like Google Bard. I'm not trying to diss any sort of competitor. AI and Google are great for certain things, but those models that are being used at such a mass scale publicly are known to hallucinate or make up answers or present inaccurate information as if it were accurate. So whatever platform you decide to go with, it needs to be trusted and it needs to offer a robust security and data and model protection feature. And on top of that, and most importantly, your platform needs to be built with governance in mind from the start. Governance cannot be an afterthought. Every company needs governance for their AI to, one, just trust it, but two, to get the transparency and the explainability that they need for their models to support things like regulatory compliance demands. I really can't stress this enough. Governance will always apply throughout your AI model's lifecycle. So whether you're well into your AI journey or if you're just getting started, this is something that should always be top of mind. And that final core principle that we believe everybody should be keeping top of mind is the ability to integrate with your current tech stack. Enterprise IT infrastructure, it's a very complicated thing and it varies company to company. And we believe that your AI product should be able to seamlessly integrate into your existing infrastructure and adapt to any sort of ecosystem that you might have. And by having this, companies have a choice of where their data lives and which tools they're going to use to drive that productivity and scale that AI. And if your AI platform, if it can't integrate with your existing tech stack, it's going to be borderline impossible to avoid disruptions to your business when you're starting to build and scale that AI for the first time. So these are all very important things to keep in mind when selecting an AI partner and building that platform up. Now, we're not here to hard sell anybody, but I do briefly want to make everybody aware of our generative AI platform, watsonx, and its capabilities. But in doing so, even if you decide that watsonx isn't for you, these are four core offerings, or the four core offerings that I'm about to cover are, in IBM's opinion, the most important capabilities that your AI platform must have if you truly want to scale and meet the needs of your business. And so our platform, it's designed in four critical pillars, one being an AI workspace, the second being AI for data, the third being governance, and the fourth being agentic workflow. Now, I'm going to cover agentic workflow here in a second, but for right now, I'm going to kick it off with your AI studio. We believe that all companies using Gen AI, they need to have this ability to train and validate and tune and deploy both machine learning and foundational models for generative AI. No model will ever be ready for production off the shelf. Your companies truly do need that time to train and tune and validate its accuracy before putting it into production. Otherwise, you're going to open yourselves up to all sorts of trouble. So having a studio or a place to make these adjustments is going to be crucial for your success. Now, the second critical component is AI for data. Now, as Justin was kind of hinting at, your company's data, it's the fuel for every AI model that you're going to build. And if that data isn't easily accessible or trustworthy, your AI initiatives are just going to stall. I kind of like to think of a company's data as crude oil. It's incredibly valuable, but you can't use it to power anything unless it's refined or delivered in a usable form. So this is where a next generation data lakehouse comes in. This isn't just a place to store data, but it's an intelligent service that's optimized specifically for AI workflows. So having AI for data will allow your users to access and manage and prepare all of your company's data in a single governed environment. So this ensures that you can scale your AI utilization by just easily accessing and sharing all of your data, no matter where it lives. So we believe that without a robust and trustworthy data foundation, you really can't build reliable and scalable AI. And that's going to bring us to our third, and in my opinion, the most key component of your AI platform. It has to be governance. If you were only going to take one thing away from this presentation, please let it be this: governance is a non-negotiable. No one should put AI into production unless they have some sort of end-to-end solution that encompasses both data and AI governance. This is the only way that anybody can truly enable responsible and transparent and explainable workflows. And furthermore, this is the only way any of your users are going to be able to trust generative AI. I'm going to cover this in much more detail towards the end of the presentation, but for right now, I'm going to spend a little bit more time talking about our fourth key component, which is what we believe all generative AI platforms need to have, which is an orchestration engine. And before I dive into what exactly an orchestration engine is, I do want to give everybody here some context. As I'm sure everybody here knows, AI agents are rapidly becoming a part of most companies' technology landscape. But as adoption accelerates, a lot of companies are encountering a very familiar challenge, which is fragmentation. These AI agents, they're being deployed in silos, and they're often managed by individual business units that use different platforms and different models and different frameworks. And so this siloed growth, it creates a lot of complexity. And as a result, the value of AI actually gets capped. And so without a unified foundation, it becomes much harder to scale, it becomes much harder to govern, and almost impossible just to achieve any sort of meaningful ROI. And IBM did this too. When ChatGPT first hit the internet back in November of 22, the first thing we did was we developed AI assistants for HR and for sales, for supply chain, for procurement, and pretty much every department in our company. And as a result, employees like myself and my colleagues here, we consistently struggled to find the right AI assistant when we needed help. And while all of these AI assistants were fantastic in their respective departments, when it came to the broader organization, it was actually halting our productivity. Because if I had a sales question, I had to go find Ask Sales. Or if I had an IT question and I couldn't connect to my VPN, I had to go find Ask IT. I would get a bullet list of items to go do in ServiceNow. I'd have to log out of the AI assistant, log into ServiceNow, complete that process manually. You get the picture. It was kind of a nightmare. But through this experience, we learned why having a coordinated approach was so critical. We needed to figure out a way for one engine to bring all of our AI assistants together and one natural language interface. And that's exactly what we were able to achieve. And so this slide right here, it introduces our agentic AI engine, which is the fourth critical component of any AI platform. To keep this high level, it acts as an enterprise orchestration layer that's designed to unify and scale AI deployments across your entire business. So instead of managing a dozen different AI assistants in silos, our orchestration engine, it addresses this fragmentation by serving as a single coordination layer that intelligently connects all of your users to the correct agent or data or tool. And this blue block in the center of the slide here, it represents the agent unification network that this is all made up of. The first being custom agents that are tailored to meet specific business needs. The second is embedded AI agents that are integrated into major applications most businesses are leveraging today, like Workday or Salesforce or ServiceNow. And the third is domain-specific agents that are focused on automating functional areas of the business like HR onboarding or procurement compliance or even sales enablement, excuse me. But really the most important point that I really want to highlight here is that our orchestration engine, it doesn't replace any of these systems. It actually extends its capabilities through AI-driven workflows and natural language interfaces. We would never ask you to rip and replace what you're already leveraging today. And for any client that's already using a major vendor like SAP or ServiceNow or Salesforce or any application really with an API connector, there is major value here because you get to expand automations and intelligence without disrupting or wasting any of your pre-existing investments. I really want to emphasize it's not just another assistant. It's an orchestration engine that is designed to bring all of your assistants and your agents and your tools and your data together in a unified and scalable experience. And I know that all sounds great, but what does this actually mean in practice? Well, we're not just doing FAQs. It's not just another assistant. Our orchestration engine, it can reason, it can take action, it can automate complex tasks across any sort of business applications that your users are engaging with. So if you're enrolling in benefits in Workday, or if you're raising an IT ticket in ServiceNow, or just needing to get information quickly from a knowledge bank with hundreds and thousands of PDFs like Seismic, it can all be done in one window and in one application. And the results are truly massive efficiency and productivity gains, because what used to take me and my colleagues here minutes or even hours, it's now just reduced to seconds. And that's what we're calling IBM's agentic approach. Now, we're going to wrap this whole presentation up with governance and securing your AI models. But before we get into that, I'm going to pass the mic over to my technical partner, Menelik here, and he's going to show you how we use our orchestration engine every single day. Menelik, take it from here.
Thanks, Connor. I appreciate it. So, good morning, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed your the webinar so far. So, I'm going to go ahead and move forward with Connor's introduction to agentic AI. So, this is IBM's approach to agentic AI. So, as Connor mentioned, there was a lot of assistant silos, as well as different technologies. So what we've done here at IBM is called, we like to drink our own champagne. That's a saying we have, where we're trying to unify our different technologies that we have. So as you can see on the left, we have multiple agents, whether it's HR, IT, procurement, sales. So what we're going to do is go and illustrate a specific use case one by one to show and demonstrate what we are doing to tackle this process. So of course, we have agents for finance and supply chain, but just for the sake of time of this webinar, I'm going to go through one by one for the four that you see on the left. So I'm going to go and start off by asking an HR related question, and it's going to be, the annual enrollment process. And typically this can be stressful for the typical employee, as well as it being stressful for the HR department. So, the typical employee, it can take from an hour to 2 hours just going over the annual enrollment process. It can be stressful. And for the HR employee, it can be stressful as well, because, it's something they have to do yearly, and, they're dealing with thousands and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands employees, just like a organization like ours at IBM, they have to go through hundreds of thousands of employees with the annual enrollment process. So this can be stressful, but, they also have important tasks such as hiring, onboarding, and interviewing. So I'm going to go ahead and ask watsonx this question: what are my health plan options? Doing so would go ahead and show and demonstrate the specific healthcare plan options that we have at IBM via custom cards. And this is all done through a Workday integration. And whether you have SAP SuccessFactors, Oracle Human Capital Management, or Kronos, all of those technologies that we here use at IBM, because we just have so many people at the organization, you can do it the same as well, as long as the API. So you're able to leverage this technology just like how we use it. So I'm going to go through the process and let watsonx know that I'm 44 years old, married, and I have 2 kids. And I'm going to ask watsonx to recommend a specific healthcare plan option for me. So I'm going to go and finish typing it out. And what watsonx will do is that it's going to need a little bit more information. And the information is going to ask, how many visits did I go to the doctor? So I'm going to go ahead and tell watsonx I went twice. And this is really important because, whether, like I said, I told watsonx I have kids, I just need to make sure I have the right healthcare plan. So I'm going to go ahead and tell watsonx I went to the doctor twice. And what's really cool and fascinating about watsonx is that just because, let's say, hypothetically in this situation, I made a mistake and I actually went 6 times, I don't need to go and start over. I can go ahead and do it right here. And I'm going to tell watsonx, hey, I actually went to the doctor 6 times. And it's going to go and change the plan from an HMO plan to the recommended plan for, how many times I would visit the doctor. So it's going to go ahead and say that, the right plan for me is the PPO plan. So this is really beneficial. Like I said, you know, you're able to reduce the amount of time for enrolling into benefits from, you know, hours to seconds. Just like how Connor said, we're able to reduce it to a matter of seconds. And, you know, you're able to go ahead and ensure that your HR department isn't flooded or overwhelmed. So next, I'm going to go through a IT use case. And as you can see here, it invoked the IT agent. I didn't have to say, hey, I'd like to request an IT agent. It just knows by what I'm telling watsonx. So I told watsonx that my VPN isn't working, and it says, okay, are you having issues with your Cisco VPN? I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And then now it's asking me, am I seeing any error messages? I'm going to say yes, and then I'm going to let it know my Wi-Fi isn't connected to the VPN. And now it's going to ask, you know, what device am I working from, whether it's an IBM issued device or a personal device. I'm going to let it know that I'm working from a IBM device. And what's really cool about this is that watsonx is able to understand what device I'm working on due to the, you know, watsonx is able to retrieve the serial number based on, you know, my login credentials. So it's asking me if I'm connected to the internet. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. Give me a second. I apologize. And now I have some troubleshooting questions. So typically what would normally happen before Agentic AI is that you would have to manually go through and sift through, you know, dozens of documents, just trying to find the right answer to troubleshoot this quick or this simple problem. And this can take a lot of time, whether it's 30 minutes to a couple hours. For something really minuscule of a problem like this, it shouldn't take that long. So what we've done here at IBM is empower our employees to make sure that depending on the problem, we can provide and empower your employees to solve the solution right away. And what we've done, or how we did this, was by putting all these documents in a vector database and using RAG, retrieval augmented generation, to empower your employees to be productive and efficient and get back to work right away. Because, you know, we don't want to delay any issues, whether you have an important meeting or an important project. But let's say for the sake, the steps didn't, you know, solve the issue. I'm going to say, hey, can you please generate a support ticket? And what watsonx will do is going to go ahead. Well, first it's going to ask me, you know, to summarize the issues so I can send a ticket. And it's going to send a ticket using ServiceNow. And right there, it's going to go ahead and send a ticket to ServiceNow on my behalf. And this is really important. Like I said, you're empowering employees. But another key issue or key thing that you may have not thought about is that alleviating the amount of stress your IT help desk technicians have. You know, they're probably having so many lower severity level tickets getting shot to them, whether it's something simple like this. And, you know, the average ticket for IT help desk ticket for something like this can add up over time, especially in volume. So we're helping your help desk technicians being able to focus on higher value tickets to ensure that they're getting the attention of time, as well as, you know, lowering that cost. So now I'm going to go and ask it to list Salesforce accounts. Like I said, I didn't ask it to invoke the sales agent. I just said list Salesforce accounts, and it invoked the sales agent. So now I'm going to list contacts for Solaria Dynamics. And as you can see, it's giving me some contacts. And I'm just going to go and pick the first one I see. I'm going to say generate an outreach email to Emily. So what watsonx will do is going to go ahead and use generative AI. And it doesn't matter which model, whether you're going to use watsonx or your model is OpenAI, Amazon Bedrock, you get the idea. It's going to go ahead and leverage a specific tailored email to Emily based on her profile and her account and industry, and give her a tailored email. Next, I'm going to go ahead and ask it to finish and create the opportunity and upload it and push it up to Salesforce. Doing so, you would get the typical process of what a seller would go ahead and do. And it's asking me to finalize the opportunity amount, and I'm going to notify watsonx. The opportunity amount is 200,000, just for the example, for the sake of this example. And this is really important because, you know, sales professionals are trying to go ahead and maximize their amount of time with their clients, you know, but they can't really maximize their time with clients if they're continuously, you know, doing all these mundane tasks. And where it doesn't seem like it's a lot, but that's just one sake. And the manual process of doing this can take minutes. But, you know, if a specific sales professional has hundreds of clients or, you know, hundreds of accounts, this can add up from a matter of minutes to hours. And what we've been able to do at IBM is streamline that process so the process can take seconds. So this is just something important I wanted to highlight in terms of time being efficient and the amount of hours saved. So lastly, I'm going to go through the procurement agent, and I'm going to go ahead and ask it to list current invoices. And like I said, I'm not going to say anything about procurement. It's just going to go ahead and invoke the procurement agent. And what you will see here is that it's pulling the current invoices from SAP and listing all the current invoices I would have. And I'm going to go and pull, or I'm going to pick digital devices, and I'm going to ask it to see if it can summarize the contract with digital devices. And what you'll see is typically, you know, a typical procurement employee would have to sift through, you know, hundreds of pages for a document. You know, if they're trying to onboard vendors or they're, you know, analyzing a contract, it takes a lot. It takes hours just to read through. But using watsonx, it's going to go ahead and summarize the contract with digital devices to highlight key points. You know, it's going to go by numerical order of what the importance of this contract is displaying. And this is really, really critical and helps save the time of your procurement employees. As you can see here, it goes from definitions, order process, delivery and shipping, warranty, etc. But I'm going to get a little bit more granular. I'm going to ask watsonx if it can go ahead and, you know, see if there's any clauses or risks that needs to be identified that I'm not seeing at first glance. So I'm going to go ahead and ask watsonx if there's any, you know, current risks or clauses with this contract that I'm not seeing. And as you can see here, it will pull and identify the potential risks and clauses for that specific contract. And this is really, really important because for procurement, for your procurement teams, this means faster decisions, reduced manual work, and better contract risk management. And you know, throughout this demonstration, I've shown multiple technologies. It was, you know, Salesforce, Workday, ServiceNow, and SAP. So like I said, we're here to unify your technology stack. We're not here to tell you to rip and replace. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it along to Matt to show what we can do from a AI security standpoint. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Menelik. And hello, my name is Matt Schuler, and along with Connor Woods, who you heard from earlier, we want to take some time to discuss AI governance and security. So first, we need to understand where we are today. Right now, companies are trying to move from plus AI to AI plus. And plus AI means that a company is simply adding AI to their existing work or processes. AI plus means AI first, and that a company is reinventing itself around the opportunity in artificial intelligence. Now, the journey to AI plus is similar for many. It starts with experimentation and a few initial use cases. All right, with growing sophistication, you can use RAG and fine-tuning to improve performance of AI models. Now, the tipping point comes when you combine it with IT automation. Go ahead, Connor, hit that. And inside the enterprise. So from there, as you apply AI to code and digital labor and incorporate AI assistants and agents into your processes, it really gets woven into the fabric of the company. So this is what we mean when we say AI plus. Yet, even as AI adoption has increased dramatically over the last few years, Gartner reports that as many as 54% of AI projects fail. You heard Justin mention that earlier for a different reason, but they fail to move past pilot and into production due to obstacles such as complexity, cost, and risk. So what we see now is that productivity gains are just so great that some organizations feel they just must accept whatever risk comes with that, right? Just to stay competitive. So IBM and AWS actually commissioned a joint survey last year where, in addition to the statistics that you see here, we also saw that 55% of CEOs saw that generative AI was more of an opportunity than it was a risk, right? But Gen AI driven analysis often creates new business risks, right? Including security and data integrity. And so, 84% of CEOs saw cybersecurity, privacy, and accuracy as barriers to adoption. So we've kind of pre-established that there are risks to your businesses if AI adoption is not done responsibly and securely, another common theme that we probably hit on so far today. So for those that took chemistry, this looks very similar to the periodic table, right? But this is what is known as an AI risk atlas. So the AI risk atlas provides a guide to understanding some of those risks of working with AI models. There are risks to be considered when training and tuning your AI models, when users are actually communicating with AI during what we call the inference phase, and also when AI technology is returning data back or output back to the users. There's a little barcode there, a QR code. Feel free to scan that, and you can dig into some of these concepts and risks maybe after the call. So, early in the more recent AI boom era, it was believed that AI regulation could stifle innovation. You might have seen that on the news, and that would result in vague or overly complex rules that wouldn't do what they were intended to do, especially given the high-speed pace of change. Well, today, regulations and frameworks are here to stay, and they actually will evolve over time, as you might imagine. So if organizations are planning to build or leverage AI, regulatory compliance will need to be considered. So AI governance and AI security, they're often seen sometimes as independent disciplines, but both are essential for organizations to consider as they look to ensure both responsible and secure AI use. So from an AI governance perspective, you're looking to ensure you're evaluating and monitoring concepts like fairness or bias and drift. Drifts where an AI's accuracy actually fluctuates or degrades over time. When considering securing AI, organizations should be able to inventory their AI assets and associated services. They should want to be able to monitor and secure the data sources, the actual data, right, being leveraged by AI models. And they need to be sure they are aware of AI vulnerabilities that exist so they can be prioritized and mitigated. Now, the risk of not doing so can result in situations like breaches and sensitive data exposure and exfiltration. So let's take a real brief but deeper dive into AI security and governance. So the AI security landscape is evolving and constantly expanding. So as you can see, there's many startups, coming out, and they all focus on different areas of security. But there are a handful of core use cases that you want to consider. So securing AI models and usage first requires discovery and visibility of the AI models, the data used to power it, and the applications in development. From there, you can begin to identify vulnerabilities and your overall risk posture. This in an effort to ensure you are following security frameworks and complying with regulations. So gaining visibility is an obvious, right, yet important first step to begin to inventory and monitor known AI assets, but also the unknown AI assets and projects, also known as shadow AI, which borrows from, if you guys been in the business any amount of time, that borrows from that concept of shadow IT, where you probably heard before. Now, doing this in an automated and continuous manner is critical. Being able to secure AI technologies across multiple clouds and multiple vendors is also something you should key in on for both robustness and, again, as you've heard, to prevent vendor lock-in. So identifying and managing vulnerabilities, right? That's just as important with respect to AI as it has been making sure your traditional workstations and server vulnerabilities are identified and managed. Why? They could lead to compromise, the bottom line. Similarly, pen testing, that's not a new concept, but AI pen testing is a new and evolving discipline and should be a considered practice. So being able to secure the input or interaction with AI, as well as the output from AI, is extremely important. Now, this helps protect the data, as I mentioned, data exfiltration or unintended data exposure by the model output responses. So blocking or even redacting, those are capabilities that you want to consider deploying to help in this area. All right, and then ultimately, those security use cases that I just mentioned, they're all there to help with efforts that you all have to comply with regulatory requirements and align with assessment frameworks. That ultimately will help you reduce risk as well as avoid fines, infamous fines to the business. So next, Connor's going to dig in a little bit on AI governance in a little bit more depth. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it. So yeah, just to kind of further develop on this non-negotiable when it comes to AI, that non-negotiable being governance, I've highlighted some points here that I think all of you should keep top of mind. And the first thing that I want to note is that manual AI documentation, it's becoming nearly impossible for the average company because their data just continues to persist at an unprecedented level, and their infrastructure just starts to become more complex. So with that being said, and in order to use AI in a trustworthy manner, we believe every company, like I said earlier, they need some sort of governance framework that can help them automate the process of identifying potential risks and ensuring the quality and explainability of their data, and also keeping them in compliance, whether that's just adhering to federal regulations or even internal compliance policies. And this can be done effectively with several key features. The first just being using a dashboard for model status and health across your entire organization. And you can see that in the bottom right corner of this slide, that even though this is IBM's watsonx governance dashboard, this exact same thing can be achieved through any sort of traditional GRC technology as well. I just wanted to provide a visual aid to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. But with that being said, a second key feature that you should really have access to is just built-in assessments for all of your large language models and your foundation models, the models, so you can monitor the health and the drift and the bias and the hallucinations that your models could potentially develop. And that goes hand in hand with the next key feature that everybody should consider making a priority, which is automation, that can continue to monitor your data and your models, which will, again, automate and optimize the process of you staying in compliance so that you're protecting yourself from audits, but you're also protecting your company's reputation while reducing manual labor. Which brings me to my last key feature, which is just having the ability to use agentic AI to automate approval workflows so you can automate and optimize and foster collaboration between your data scientists, your AI developers, or really any other key business stakeholder. And I think the reason why this last feature is so important is because we all understand that no company is ever going to be in full compliance 24/7, 365. As regulations and internal policies evolve, adjustments will always need to be made. But having that ability to streamline the identification of what changes need to be made to remain compliant, and then letting those relevant stakeholders know exactly what it is they need to do to re-achieve that compliance, it's going to be critical for just scaling trustworthy AI effectively. And what's really cool about this too is that having a feature like this built into your AI platform, it actually accelerates your time to production as well as ROI within AI. And the last key feature that I'm going to cover is explainability, which is arguably the most important feature to have for AI governance. For traditional predictive models, your platform should be able to generate very detailed explanations for predictions using a variety of algorithms. But for generative AI, explainability is all about source attribution, which is the capability that helps you find and highlight the exact source and relevant context that led to the model's output. So this is especially important for RAG-based systems because it helps prevent hallucinations. But most importantly, having explainability, it really just reinforces that trust because it shows all of your users where the information actually came from. So to kind of wrap this whole thing up, the ultimate goal is to bring all of these elements together. True AI governance is not a separate function from AI security. They are very integrated technologies. And By combining them, any company can govern and secure and monitor their AI in just one cohesive, unified experience. And this integration, it not only provides a comprehensive view of both like business and security risks, but it really ensures that you're not just deploying AI. It ensures that you're deploying AI in a responsible and a secure fashion. So that's all I got for you today. Thank you all so much for coming and spending some time with us and listening. If anybody has any questions, please put them in the chat, but I'm going to pass it back to my business partner, Data Ninjas, to kind of describe how this survey is going to work and how you guys are going to qualify for your free drivers.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Connor. Very, very insightful, presentation, IBM team, kudos. I again want to thank everybody who has attended. There are a couple of, kind of housekeeping items, if you will, there were a few questions here. Will we be sharing the recording of this particular session? Absolutely. You will not have to request the recording. We'll make sure that you all get it. And it'll be fairly easy to share amongst, your team members who would be interested. Now, if there are any additional questions or there are specific questions around use cases, obviously, between the IBM team and the Data Ninjas team, we are here to answer any and all questions. We're happy to jump on a, another call with you all to explore, a little bit deeper, if you will, into any of the topics that were presented. Obviously, Connor, and team have done an awesome job, and I cannot thank you all enough. Connor, Justin, Menelik, thank you so much. Matt, thank you so much. Like I said, what we'll do is after this meeting is over, if you are able to see the post attendee feedback survey, please fill that out. If you don't see it, you will definitely get an email. Please fill that out at your convenience. We request that you do so later today, and that way we have a good idea of who is going to show up for the fitting, and we can manage the logistics. Again, Connor, I'll send it back to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Mangesh. I really appreciate that. So guys, again, the recording will be sent to you automatically. In order to qualify for the free driver, you must fill out that survey. So please, and Mangesh, maybe you can provide some insight here, but once will that just auto-populate in their screen? I know you were the one who set this up. I want to make sure.
Yes, it should. It's set up so that it'll auto-populate in the browser or the screen, or they'll also get an email.
Okay, sounds good. Well, with that being said, once you fill out the survey, we will be notified, and then we will respond back before the end of the day today or early tomorrow morning with the address and the time of your driver fitting. So again, thank you everybody so much for taking the time out of your morning to be with us here today and learn a little bit more about the data and AI lifecycle. We really appreciate it. And if you have any follow-up questions at all, reach out to any one of us and we'll answer accordingly. So thank you all so much and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.